I always felt like I could achieve something in my life, like achieve something great, but I was always told I would always fail at everything I would do. I was told I was stupid from a young age. I ended up going into the special ed program when I was about in fourth grade. And when I was in fourth grade, I couldn't read. And that's why I ended up in special ed. And from there on, they put me into this little, they pulled me out of class. They'd send you out to the little fallout shelter like they have for tornadoes and stuff like that. It's this little kind of shitty spot out there in the side of the school building. So you're always being pulled out of class. You're being spotlighted, and you're just being taken and being told go out there. And the kids would start poking fun at you. They knew that you were. They would assume you were less than, right? And so growing up, I would just kind of gave up on trying to read. It just became too much of a struggle. Back in the 90s, so I'm 39, back in the 90s, they would do a thing called popcorn reading, right? And I don't know if anybody here remembers what popcorn reading was, but they would go around the classroom and everybody would read a paragraph out of the social studies book, let's say, and then they would go popcorn Dan. Dan would read a paragraph, and I would just be dreading. I'd be sweating. I'd be dying. I'd just be like, oh, come on, give me a short paragraph. Give me the little one. And then if it was somebody that, disliked me because I couldn't read, they would give me the big paragraph, and I would just stumble through it. It was a struggle. It was hard, right? You would be called stupid. You'd just kept getting picked on by some of the other kids. Even though I'm a bigger boy, I would get picked on still, right? And so I kind of gave up on the education system in a way. I was really good at math, but I'm like, what's the point if I'm going to fail all these other classes? So I go into middle school. Middle school, I get put into the special ed class again. Seventh, eighth grade, special ed. And I'm getting straight D's through seventh and eighth grade. And so I'm like, okay, at least I'm passing. A D's a pass. And so that was the standard they were holding me to. And I'm like, okay, I could pass with this. And this is going to be the standard I pass with. Even though it was a struggle, I'm like, I'm still making headway through school, right? In seventh, eighth grade, my parents put me into a tutor. And that's when Harry Potter came out in 98. I think it was 97, 98, 99, something like that. And she tried getting me to read Harry Potter with her. So every day after school, I'd go to this lady. She'd sit down. She tried reading me these Harry Potter stories, and I'd zone out. And I was like, no, this isn't for me, right? And eventually I stopped going to the tutor. And my parents expected me to fail out of high school, so they sent me to summer school the year before I even got into high school, anticipating me failing high school. So I passed my English class during that summer, and then I'm like, all right, let's first year of high school. I already passed English, so why even try in the first year? So I got F my first year English in high school because I already passed it the summer before. And so all through high school, I was always told, you're going to fail, you won't become anything, you're just dumb, all these things. Eventually, I graduated high school with pretty much the lowest GPA you could get because that's what the standard was, and that's what I could achieve because I didn't have the right pass. A lot of the special ed classes they did have in my high school, they dropped the funding for it when I was a sophomore, so then you got put into mainstream classes, right? After high school, I was working at a motorcycle shop building custom motorcycles for a little bit. It was kind of a rougher way of life. The guy was a little rough I was working with, but he did take me under his wing, and he did kind of mentor me as a good role model of like what not to do in the world. He definitely checked me if I got out of line a little too far. And I got lucky. I got a job at Intel, the computer company out in Oregon, which was surprising because I'm like, I'm just dumb. I'm going to fail at this. This is a computer company, and I shouldn't be able to do this. And within 6 months, they offered me a full-time contract with them, full-time job, college benefits, everything like that. And the engineer saw something in me and something I was doing. I'm like, okay, maybe I do have something. Maybe I can achieve something. All this time, even with everybody kind of knocking me down all the time, I still felt like I could still achieve something great in my life. When they offered me that job, that was during the time of Fallujah. That was back in 2004, 2005. Fallujah was a big battle in Iraq with the Marines. And I always remembered 9/11. 9/11 happened when I was in high school. I watched my mom cry when we watched it on the when we watched on the TV, watched the towers go down. Those 3,000 people lost their lives, and that was always stuck with me. So when they offered me that job, I'm like, okay, I could achieve something. That kind of proved that I knew I could achieve something in my life. Somebody saw something in me, and so I put in my 2-week notice, and I went and joined the Army and became an Army paratrooper, which is some of the hardest training you'll go through. And right before I left for basic training, both my parents are anti-war protesters also, just so you know that. So my grandfather was a World War II vet, and he gave me this book before I left, The Endurance, Ernest Shackleton, His Great Adventure Down to the South Pole. He gave me that book, and he's like, here you go, read it while you're away. I started reading it when I went into basic training. I'd read it half a page a day, a quarter of a page a day. That's all I could get in. That's all, like, it would take me 10, 20, 30 minutes to read that much. It took me a long time. It took me 3 years to read that book. And that was the first book I ever read in my life. And so I go basic training, airborne school. I'm still chipping away at the endurance. It's inspiring me, the struggles they went through. I get shipped off to Italy, Vicenza, Italy, with the 173rd Airborne. About 6 months after I'm there, we get shipped off to the worst spot in Afghanistan in 2007, 2008. It was a 15-month deployment up in the Hindu Kush of Afghanistan, northeast of Afghanistan. Big mountains. We had about 16,000-foot peaks where we were at. And it was rugged, it was rough, it was brutal. Became the most violent place on earth during 2007, 2008. It was unbelievably terrible there. Beautiful country, though. It was so beautiful. The mountains were beautiful. We worked side by side with Afghan soldiers. And during that time, I kept reading, kept chipping away at it, read my book, right? Read The Endurance, finished that off. And then we got lucky. A reporter came out to visit with us. And he heard I read The Endurance, so he started bringing me books. Every time he came back, he would bring me like The Long Walk. I banged that one out. And all of a sudden, I bang out another one. He kept bringing me books. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm starting to become a reader, which was crazy because I was always told, you'll never read. You're dumb. You won't achieve anything. All these things. All of a sudden, I kept chipping away at it. Come back from that deployment, finished 3 or 4 books on that deployment. Kept reading, kept up on it. Went down to Fort Polk, Louisiana after 4 years of service and became an instructor down there. Learned how to speak a little bit of Pashtun, became an instructor, taught people how to go to Afghanistan, learned the culture, learned the language. And all of a sudden I started passing some of the hardest schools in the military. I went into jump master school, which is just all knowledge. It's where you're in control of the aircraft. And I'm the one hanging out the side of the plane, exiting all the other paratroopers out of the plane. But the knowledge base for that, it's the majority, 90% of the people do not pass it on the first time they go through it. I was a very young soldier, the youngest rank you could go into it, and I passed it the first time I went through. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm not as much of a failure as everybody kept telling me I am. Even in the military, your leadership, because I'm a little soft-spoken. I'm not the standard, like, gruffness of a soldier, what everybody assumes a soldier is. And I had leaders that would tell me, like, you won't achieve this, you can't pass that, you won't do this. And I kept proving them wrong. Kept going, kept pushing through it, kept reading. The jump master school is all reading. And then all of a sudden, I come home from that deployment. I decided I needed to deploy again back to Afghanistan. I was in a leadership position this time. Deploy back to Afghanistan, same region, same location, so I could speak the language, knew the culture, knew the people, and got embedded with the same unit of Afghan soldiers I was with on my first time go around. That deployment, I read a 350-page book in less than 24 hours in this beautiful location near the Pakistan border in this nice little valley, one of the most violent places on earth. But I read a 350-page book while I was there in this beautiful region of Afghanistan. I was just like, that day, I'm like, I'm a reader now. I proved all these people wrong. I did this, and this is great. On that second deployment, I did get injured. I was hit with a recoilless rocket, and so I have a cervical injury now, some brain damage, some other nerve damage and stuff like that. I got early retired from the military, about 9 years of service in. I came back to Vermont, moved up here, got married to my beautiful wife back there. And during COVID, she's like, "You never read Harry Potter?" I'm like, "No." And so through COVID, me and her sat there and we read every single book together. And that was like kind of that final pin in the story of like, I'm not going to fail at stuff in my life. I can achieve things and I'm going to do great things in my life.